So far, the ones that have been found, Göbekli Tepe is unique. And I think it's clear now that Göbekli Tepe itself was the end of a process, not the beginning of a process. It was something that marked, it was a marker. It was something that brought together the best of everything that they'd accumulated and created it in one place, and left it there, finally at the end, burying it, sealing it as a time capsule, which then was untouched for more than 10,000 years.
What if everything we thought we knew about the start of human civilization was wrong? Imagine a place built over 12,000 years ago, before farming, before writing, and long before the rise of cities. A place where giant stones were carved with unknown symbols, animals, and strange figures, by people who, according to history books, shouldn't have had the knowledge or tools to do it. Who were they? What were they trying to say? And why did they build this massive site, then bury it for future generations to find?
Göbekli Tepe turned out to be what you think it might have been. Where are the metal tools? Where are the writing, the examples of writing?
This isn't just an ancient ruin. This is a message from the deep past, one we are only beginning to understand. Graham Hancock finally solved the Göbekli Tepe mystery, and his theory could change everything we believe about human history.
Arms going down with the hand, and this is the belt.
Belt, yeah.
And this is a fox skin hanging down from the belt. But we can be sure there had been walls, there had been pillars, there had been central pillars, everything, but they recycled it and brought it to some other place in the mountain. We can understand from this existing enclosures that they reused a lot of existing pieces.
A hidden place from a time long ago. Let's start from the beginning. Far away in the southeastern part of Turkey lies a hill that holds a very old and special secret. This place is called Göbekli Tepe. Long before the pyramids of Egypt or the famous stones of Stonehenge were ever built, something remarkable was already standing here. Göbekli Tepe is one of the oldest known human-made places in the world. At first glance, it may look like a pile of rocks, but beneath the surface are huge stone circles, built by people over 12,000 years ago. These circles are made of thick stone pillars that stand tall, like silent guards of ancient history. Many of these pillars have pictures carved into them. Some show animals like foxes, birds, and snakes. Others have shapes that look like parts of the human body. These carvings help researchers learn what people believed long ago, including how they thought about gods, nature, and the world around them. The stone circles are not all the same size. Some are as wide as 9 meters across, while others reach up to 30 meters. So far, only 4 of these circles have been fully uncovered by archaeologists. Still, machines that look underground suggest there might be at least 16 more hiding beneath the earth. If that is true, the entire area could hold around 200 stone pillars in total. What makes this place even more fascinating is how carefully everything was planned. Every circle has 2 big pillars standing in the center, directly across from each other. These pillars were not made right there on the spot. People carved them out of a special type of rock called limestone, which they dug up from a place about 100 meters away. They then moved these heavy stones to the site. No one knows exactly how they did it without wheels, trucks, or animals to help. That's part of the mystery. Some experts believe the stone circles might have been covered by roofs made of wood or other materials. This idea comes from traces of plaster found on the walls, which hint that people tried to seal and protect these sacred spaces. When scientists used a method called carbon dating to find out how old the site is, they were amazed. The results showed that parts of Göbekli Tepe could be more than 11,600 years old. That means the people who built it lived a long time before written history even began. Göbekli Tepe was likely used between the years 9,500 and 8,000 before Christ, during a time known as the pre-pottery Neolithic period. But here's something surprising. The site was first noticed in the 1960s, and people at the time thought it was just an old graveyard from the Byzantine era. No one realized how important it really was. That all changed in the year 1994, when a shepherd was walking on the hill and noticed something strange sticking out of the ground. It was a tall stone with a carving of an unusual animal on it. That simple moment sparked a wave of excitement and led to the full discovery of Göbekli Tepe, the man who brought the past to light. Soon after the strange stone was found by the shepherd, a man named Klaus Schmidt heard about it. He was a German archaeologist who had already studied another ancient place in Turkey called Çatalhöyük. Curious and excited, Schmidt decided to take a closer look at this mysterious hill. That decision would change everything. In the year 1995, Schmidt and his team began digging. From the very beginning, it became clear that they were not just looking at an ordinary old site. The things they found were extremely old and matched objects from the Stone Age. These weren't the leftovers of farms or homes. Instead, they seemed to belong to something completely different. Schmidt spent many years working at Göbekli Tepe. It became one of the biggest projects of his life. He carefully studied each piece they found and took notes on everything. Even though many people didn't agree with his early ideas, he never gave up. His hard work helped the world understand that this hill was hiding something truly special. Sadly, he passed away in the year 2014, not long after finishing his final study. But by then, he had already helped unlock secrets from more than 10,000 years ago. As the digging continued, something very surprising came to light. Unlike other ancient places where people cooked, lived, and raised families, Göbekli Tepe had none of that. There were no fireplaces, no stoves, no signs of farming or homes. It didn't seem like anyone ever lived there for long periods. That made it different from places like Çatalhöyük, where early farmers built houses and stayed year-round. Schmidt and other researchers began using special machines that could look beneath the ground. What they found was incredible. Many more giant stone pillars were still buried, waiting to be uncovered. This meant most of the site was still hidden and untouched. Because there were no everyday tools or home items found at Göbekli Tepe, Schmidt believed it wasn't a place where people lived. Instead, he thought it was a sacred place where people came to worship or perform rituals. He described it as a spiritual center for early nomadic groups who moved around from place to place and didn't have permanent homes. These were people who followed animals, gathered wild food, and lived in small groups. What made things even more puzzling was that the biggest and most beautiful stone carvings were found in the top layers of the site. These were grand and powerful looking, filled with animals and symbols. But as they dug deeper, the stones became simpler and smaller. That surprised everyone because usually, the older things are, the simpler they look. Here, it seemed to be the other way around. This led some experts to wonder if Göbekli Tepe marked not the beginning of a new tradition, but the end of an ancient one. Perhaps the people who built it were holding on to stories and ideas that were already ancient, possibly dating back to before the Ice Age. Deep under the earth, in the quiet rooms and stone rings of Göbekli Tepe, no one found signs of farming or crops. Instead, it looked like people used this place only for special events or ceremonies. And it wasn't early farmers who built it. It was hunter-gatherers, people who moved from place to place, finding food in the wild and living closely with nature. Even though thousands of years have passed, the energy of the site still feels powerful. Just like sacred places in other parts of the world, such as Cusco in Peru or the temples of ancient Greece, Göbekli Tepe might have been a place where people came from far away to celebrate, honor their gods, and feel close to something bigger than themselves. The mystery of a dry hill full of life. When people first visit this ancient hill, especially during the warm summer days, they might think there's nothing special about it. The land looks dry and no river or stream is flowing nearby. But long ago, it may have been very different. Experts believe the wide stone circles on the hilltop could have helped collect rainwater. And if you look closely, tiny water springs can still be seen in the distance, just like the ones near the peaceful place called Göbekli. Long ago, there may have been even more of these water spots, now lost to time. Even without modern tools or strong animals to help, building these huge stone circles was a big job. According to researchers, each one likely needed hundreds of people working together. It probably took several weeks or even months to finish one ring. Imagine lifting heavy stones using only your hands and basic tools. As teams dug deeper into the earth, they found bones from many kinds of wild creatures. These included animals like deer, goats, pigs, and large antelopes. These animals were not raised on farms. They were hunted. That tells us the people who came here were not farmers but lived by gathering and hunting. Alongside the bones, seeds and shells from nuts and grains were also found. These came from wild plants like almonds and pistachios, which still grow in the area today. For a long time, many believed that only settled people with farms and large villages could build such impressive structures. But in the late 1990s, a different idea started to spread. Some historians began to think that this place might have been one of the first steps toward learning how to grow food. People who wandered from place to place may have started trying small farming tricks right here. The age of the site tells us that it belongs to the early part of what's called the New Stone Age. This time was special because humans gradually stopped moving around and started building homes. They planted crops, raised animals, and stayed in one place. But even now, experts still wonder which came first, settling down or learning to farm. One clue comes from tools shaped like curved knives. These might have been used to cut early types of grain. Some believe that as more people gathered here for long periods, the nearby food supplies began to run low. This could have encouraged them to grow their own food. In his writings, a historian named Stephen Mithen shared an interesting idea. He imagined that people from faraway places met here to exchange seeds and stories. These weren't just visits. They were big, meaningful gatherings. Similar stone circles in other places, like the famous ones in England, also show how early humans came together and shared ideas. The way the giant stones at Göbekli Tepe are placed isn't random. They seem to align with natural phenomena in the sky, such as the stars and the seasons. That tells us the builders didn't just stack rocks. They had knowledge of the heavens. They planned carefully and built with purpose, using skills that showed clear thinking and clever problem solving. But the story of this hill isn't only told through old stones. The people who live near it today still feel a deep connection. For the local Kurdish families, this place isn't just ancient, it's personal. A special tree once stood on one of the hills. It played an important part in their springtime celebrations. Each year, when spring arrives and the day and night are the same length, people gather at the tree. They tie small pieces of cloth to its branches, each one holding a hope or wish. But when digging began, the original tree had to be removed. That made many people sad. Still, the community didn't give up. They planted a new tree in the same spot. Even though rules are stricter now, families continue to visit, bringing their wishes with them. The celebration lives on just in a quieter way. What's even more amazing is that during these rituals, people use pottery made from clay that dates back about 12,000 years. These pots are not just ancient, they are still being used today during special moments. Who were the builders of this mysterious hill? Many people wonder about the men and women who once walked across the stones of Göbekli Tepe. Who were they? And what kind of lives did they live? The answers are hard to find because the physical remains they left behind are very few. Only a few hundred pieces of human bones have been discovered at the site. Most of these pieces come from skulls, and some of them look quite unusual. A closer look at some of these skulls shows signs that parts may have been removed after death. A few even have small holes carefully made in them. Some scientists think these holes could have been used to hang the skulls on wooden poles or display them in some way, possibly during ceremonies. Because of these findings, many researchers have started to wonder if this place was more than just a sacred gathering spot. Could it have been linked to a group of people who honored their ancestors in very special ways? In some nearby areas, people once kept the skulls of important individuals and used them in rituals. These customs may have lasted for thousands of years and could even be older than Göbekli Tepe itself. Not far from this ancient hill is another important place called Karahan. There, researchers found clues that suggest something even more serious may have happened. Some of the evidence suggests that people were once offered as sacrifices. If true, this would add another layer to the story and show how deep and emotional these ceremonies might have been. Even though the full story is still a puzzle, one thing is clear. It is hard to believe that small groups of hunters and gatherers, without settled homes or farms, could have suddenly built such a large and detailed structure. It raises a big question. How did they manage to create something so advanced when farming had not yet taken root? One possible answer is that knowledge came from outside the region. Maybe new people arrived, bringing fresh ideas and techniques. These visitors might have shared tools, skills, or ways of building that the local people had never seen before. This sharing of knowledge could explain how such a complex site appeared so early in human history. What is especially surprising is that most historians used to believe that people only started building giant stone monuments after they learned how to grow food and settle in one place. It made sense that farming gave them extra time and resources to build. But Göbekli Tepe tells a different story. It was likely built before any clear sign of farming appeared. The signs of early farming in the area do not show up until many years later. That means this site may have been built right at the beginning of the change from hunting and gathering to growing crops. This makes the discovery even more special, as it may be one of the oldest examples of people working together to build something large and meaningful. Secrets in Stone and Clues from the Sky. In recent years, a writer and researcher named Graham Hancock has taken a deep interest in Göbekli Tepe. His investigations have helped bring more attention to this ancient site and the surrounding region. Graham Hancock finally solved the Göbekli Tepe mystery. According to his ideas, this place might not be the first step in an old story, but actually the final chapter of a long cultural journey. Instead of starting something new, it may have been the last great effort by people trying to hold on to old traditions that were slowly fading away. This idea becomes even more fascinating when we look at how symbols and artwork found at Göbekli Tepe seem to match those seen in ancient cultures from faraway places. The shapes and patterns on the stones hint that people across different lands may have shared ideas, stories, or beliefs, even if they never met. That suggests a deeper connection between early human groups than once thought. To understand this connection better, some people have looked to religious texts. One well-known example is the Bible, which tells the story of a paradise where humans first began their journey. According to the story, this peaceful garden had 4 rivers flowing through it. 2 of them are familiar to us today. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers both begin in the same region of eastern Anatolia, where Göbekli Tepe is located. As for the other 2 rivers, some researchers believe they could be the Aras River and the Karasu River, which also begin in the same area and flow toward nearby lands. The proximity of these 4 rivers to one another supports the idea that this part of the world may have been where early civilizations began. Many archaeologists agree that this region was very important in human history. Around 11,000 years ago, people here started to experience major changes. The weather was shifting, farming was being discovered, and humans were learning how to build villages. These changes were part of something called the Neolithic Revolution, a time when people began living in more organized ways. Some believe that old stories and spiritual texts may have captured this important moment, even if in symbolic form. But there is still so much we do not know. What were the beliefs of the people who gathered at Göbekli Tepe? Did they trade with others or share their customs? What can their carvings and statues tell us about their world? To find answers, researchers have studied the stone carvings and small items found during digs. One of the most common images seen at the site is the snake. In many ancient beliefs, snakes are connected to the afterlife or hidden worlds beneath the earth. In a place called Navali Chori, not far from Göbekli Tepe, a strange statue was found in the late 1980s. It depicted a creature with a snake-like or lizard-like feature emerging from the back of its smooth head. Other places, such as Karahan Tepe, have shown similar carvings, including scorpions and other animals that people often connect with death or transformation. Many symbols found at Göbekli Tepe remain a mystery. They appear in patterns and shapes that no one can fully explain yet. But most experts agree they must have held special meanings. These symbols were not just decorations. They were likely used to express deep thoughts, beliefs, and maybe even stories that were passed down over many generations. The search for meaning did not stop there. In the year 2023, archaeologists made even more exciting discoveries. Alongside the carved images, they found new statues of both animals and humans. These new finds help paint a fuller picture of the lives and rituals of the people who once gathered here. One sculpture that stood out was a painted statue of a wild pig. Its fine details and lifelike style suggest it may have been part of a ceremony or held a spiritual meaning. These kinds of finds show that the people of Göbekli Tepe had more than basic skills. They were skilled artists and builders. Their work suggests that they had leaders, beliefs, and organized roles in their community. A respected expert named Professor Harold Hauptmann studied these images and believed they were linked to shamans. These were people in ancient times who acted as spiritual guides and healers. The animals carved on the stones, such as the wild pig, the fox, the lion, the deer, and various birds and reptiles, were likely important to these shamans. They may have been seen as powerful spirits or symbols to be respected or controlled. When we look at how the stone circles were arranged, we can see that they followed special shapes and lines. These patterns were not random. They may have shown the movement of stars or the changing seasons. This suggests that the builders understood the sky and used that knowledge to guide their building plans. Could the builders have known more than we think? Recent findings at Göbekli Tepe and nearby Karahan Tepe show that this area was once very important for early cultures. Experts believe it was a place where people gathered for rituals and ceremonies, rather than a place to live. Researcher Andrew Collins explains that although there were no cities back then, these stone circles brought people together. He believes they reflect the deep beliefs and organized social life of early humans. Collins also connects the site to the start of farming, tool-making, and even early drinks like wine. He doesn't believe the site was built by aliens, but others have pointed out the strange carvings and how they line up with stars. Some even say the site might have been part of an earlier civilization lost to time. The idea of using these monuments as ways to reach the heavens has become popular. Stars like Deneb and Tabby are often mentioned. Tabby's unusual behavior has led to theories about advanced space technology. Some people believe that the builders possessed knowledge of math and astronomy that we are only beginning to grasp today. After all, as the old saying goes, the past is a foreign country. They do things differently there. What if the real mystery of Göbekli Tepe isn't what we've found, but what we haven't yet uncovered? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The truth might just begin with your theory. Thank you for joining this journey into the heart of history. If you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more explorations into ancient mysteries.